This video is a part of a new series, which I'm calling the GOAT Game Series. It will be a collection of videos where in each video, I'll do my best to present a legitimate case for why this particular game is the greatest video game of all time. There are some games that have a worthy argument for this title, but I personally never got around to playing them. In those cases, I will actually go through the game for the first time and then put together a video for it. So let me know in the comment section what games you would like to see in this new series. As far as today's video, this game was the epic climax that many people believe is the greatest video game trilogy of all time, Halo 3. It was one of the most hyped sequels of video game history, and to say that it delivered on the excitement would be a tremendous understatement. Simply put, Halo 3 captivated an entire generation, as the Master Chief was quickly becoming the new face of the video game industry, at the very least to Western audiences. Despite releasing nearly 15 years ago, there's still no push from the fans for a Halo 3 Anniversary Edition, because even now, the game just looks so damn gorgeous. Whether you're in the jungle at Sierra 117, the deserts of the Ark, the snowy terrains of Halo, or the dreadful aura of the Floodgate, Halo 3 perfectly executes a genuine atmosphere that doesn't ever grow stale, thanks to its wide variety of immersive locations. For a 360 game, the graphics have aged incredibly, as it has somehow remained aesthetically pleasing even a decade and a half later. But if there's something that separates Halo from all other first-person shooters, it's the storytelling and the score, which arguably have never been done better within the franchise than it was in Halo 3. It was the epic culmination of so many complex storylines between all the different factions. Halo 3's unique story resulted in one of the most gripping video game experiences that I've ever had, as I still find it incredibly difficult to willingly skip any of the cutscenes, even though I've seen them a million times. One of the most emotionally driven aspects that enhances the story is the legendary score by the GOAT himself, Marty O'Donnell. That iconic piano theme of this third installment was an original idea of Marty's, but when other members of the development team heard the piano, many of them laughed and thought that it sounded a bit forced. Fortunately for all of us, Marty's ways are above their ways, and he stayed resolute in his vision for the main theme. This memorable track perfectly represented the overarching themes of the last game in the trilogy, as the slow and emotionally driven melody helped induce the sense of finality as Chief ultimately finished the fight. Within this masterpiece, nothing ever felt rushed, as both the story and the level design patiently unfold at a pace that doesn't seem too fast or too slow. Unlike even previous games in the series, no levels seem too grindy, and no atmospheres become too redundant, as the attention to detail is clearly on display with every new room and location. In Halo 3, every enemy encounter feels like a unique experience. Some rooms are empty, some rooms are filled with adversaries, and some rooms evolve into an unexpected ambush. Look at the example of the one-on-one confrontation with the Brute Chieftain on the Ark level. At this point, we had already fought a countless number of brutes throughout the game, but this specific setting and dynamic gave this moment a fresh and exciting twist that we hadn't really experienced yet. Halo 3 as a whole is full of these unique sequences that provide a fresh and adventurous experience on a moment-to-moment basis. One of the key contributing factors that adds to this is the weapon sandbox and the specific placements of the weapons before you reach them. In Halo 3, almost every weapon feels like it carries some value, and is a viable option in specific situations. As much as I love Halo 2, I feel like they didn't properly provide a wide variety of weapons with a comparable amount of value. If we're being honest, any elite heavy mission can be easily handled with a noob combo, which gives such an advantage that it almost makes every other weapon obsolete by comparison. Same goes for the equipment in Halo 3, as stuff like the bubble shield, energy drain, regenerator, and gravity lift all serve as unique and useful options depending on the situation. All of this ultimately contributes to Halo 3's diverse sandbox, which gives both the campaign and multiplayer an enjoyable experience of constant adaptation. An example of a game that didn't do this as well was its sequel, Halo 4. In this installment, much of the Promethean weapons looked different from what we had seen in previous Halo games, but in reality, they were simply copy and pasted weapons with a different looking exterior. You had your shotgun, your sniper, your battle rifle, your pistol, and your rocket launcher. Not to mention how you were constantly running out of ammo in Halo 4. So even if you found a specific weapon that you found appealing, you had very little time to become comfortable with it. It ultimately felt generic and didn't come anywhere close to the fresh arsenal that Halo 3 provided. So now let's take a moment to focus on the story for this section of the video. The beauty of this finale of the trilogy was seeing the complexity and how these groups and characters overlapped in their motivations and how it all came to fruition. Throughout the second and third Halo game, you have the Arbiter beginning to question the hierarchs, the Arbiter's realization that the heretic leader was actually correct about the prophets, you have the Chief and Arbiter working alongside the Gravemind, you have the split between the Brutes and the Elites, which eventually results in a civil war, the Elites and the UNSC joining forces against the Brutes, the Elites, the UNSC, and the Flood joining forces against Truth, trying to stop him from activating the rings, and then the UNSC and the Elites fighting the Flood once again after Truth has been dealt with. Simply put, the amount of complexity within the storytelling is astonishing. Obviously, Halo 2's story deserves a ton of credit for this, but that all could have been for nothing if they didn't stick the landing with the conclusion. There are revelations, betrayals, and truces constantly throughout the games, and Halo 3 wraps it all up with a satisfying ending for just about any fan. At the very heart of this rich storytelling is the relationship between the main characters, Master Chief and Cortana. Throughout the first two games, their connection had been building subtly throughout their adventures, but Halo 3 took it a step further, putting Chief and Cortana in the traditional roles of a man who saves a woman from peril. Even though this was a focal point of the story, it isn't so meditated upon that everything else becomes insignificant in comparison. It's emotionally gripping, but not completely overshadowing. You never once lose track of the galactic warfare going on around you, and of the Chief's ultimate mission to finish this fight. In Halo 4, that's exactly what happened, as the game began to feel like a romantic soap opera with simply warfare as a background. In other words, Halo 3 understood the value of a bigger narrative that drives the characters forward. Speaking of the campaign, every great video game has some incredible levels and moments that its players will never forget, and for me, Halo 3 has several of those. The first would be the level Floodgate. You can never relive the initial magic of the Flood's introduction in Combat Evolved, but Halo 3's Floodgate is as close as it gets, as the abrupt change in tone, music, and atmosphere communicate a deep sense of dread that only seems fitting for an enemy like the Flood. To begin this level, the dialogue enlightens you on the weight and gravity of the situation, as you overhear Commander Miranda Keyes and Lord Hood have this discussion.
The Flood. It's spreading all over the city.
How do we contain it?
Find the crashed Flood ship. Overload its engine core. We either destroy this city, or risk losing the entire planet.
Do it.
Chief, make your way to the crash site.
I love how quickly they agreed that the correct decision is simply to nuke the city. These are a couple of experienced military soldiers who understand how formidable their foe really is. And no one understands this better than Miranda, as her father was killed by the very enemy that this discussion was concerning. I also love how this level is in reverse of the previous level, which greatly shows the contrast and gives a visual perspective on just how bleak the situation currently is, which is also the perfect illustration for the Flood, and the ideal way to reintroduce them, as they represent the corruption and reversal of what was originally pure. The second part of the campaign that I will never forget is the level named The Covenant. From the moment this level begins, the game feels as if it's building towards something, which ultimately results in the climax of a battle with two scarabs. The pacing and the combat are well executed, as this level provides just about everything, while being supported by some of the best tracks within Halo 3's score. Although it's still a linear level by design, it still feels very open in the ways you may approach it, as there is no shortage in the variety of weapons, vehicles, and strategies for proceeding. Even the cutscenes are extremely on point with their epic sense of scale and with its emotionally gripping presentation. If there is one level that encompasses everything that makes the Halo franchise special, this may be it. My final example of an unforgettable Halo level is the last one, simply titled Halo. With so much build-up spanning over nearly a decade, it would have been very easy for Bungie to disappoint everyone with an underwhelming finale. But this was anything but, as the ending not only sent Johnson out with a bang, but the entire trilogy as well. I can't tell you how many times I've played through this final escape sequence, and yet, after dozens and dozens of times, it still never seems to get old. I could die over and over again, reverting back to the checkpoints long into the past, and I would still find it all extremely enjoyable, based on how well done the level is. Even though that may be true of this level, to be honest, it's a pretty accurate way to describe the entirety of Halo 3's campaign if you ask me. Another enjoyable aspect of the campaign is how they truly mastered the difficulty scaling within the legendary setting. It's difficult enough that it respects its players, but it isn't so painfully difficult that it often seems broken and unfair, kinda like how Halo 2 was. Whether it's the absurd reactions and the precision of the sniper jackals, or the insane rate of fire from the elites and the grunts, Halo 2 often left you feeling like you were cheated into dying, rather than the fact that you simply played poorly. In Halo 3, your deaths rarely result in you feeling like you were screwed over, as the game, for the most part, is extremely fair in its gameplay. At this point, we've thoroughly covered what makes Halo 3's story and campaign so timeless. But for many people, that's not even the most important part of a great Halo game. For some, it's all about the multiplayer, and this was certainly not a weakness from Halo 3 either. Much of the aspects that made Halo 3's campaign so enjoyable were present in the multiplayer as well. From the array of equipment to the well-rounded arsenal of weaponry with plenty of exciting new additions. Between all the different multiplayer modes were countless hours of online fun with people from all around the world. But one of the best parts of Halo 3's multiplayer specifically was Forge and Theater. Although this third installment did have a strong sense of finality to it, in many ways it was also the beginning of many great things for the Halo franchise, as introducing Forge, Theater, and custom games allowed the Halo community to become a part of the creative process, and not only add countless hours, but even years worth of engagement to the online experience. Introducing these modes wasn't only a big deal for the Halo franchise, but it was also a massive move for the FPS genre as a whole, as this game was a pioneer for modes that are now commonly available in shooters throughout the industry. All in all, whether we're looking at Halo 3's prime, its legacy, its solo experience, cooperative experience, or multiplayer experience, it simply has stood the test of time and has remained one of the greatest games of video game history, and as far as I'm concerned, has a legitimate case for the title of the greatest video game of all time. So what do you guys think? Where does Halo 3 rank among the greatest video games? Is it even your favorite Halo game? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more of the GOAT Game series, and I'll see you guys in the next video.